Today we're going to be seeing who makes the best scrambled eggs. We're going to be testing Gordon Ramsay's, Jamie's, which is more like a pub type easy version that you can make at home. And then we're going to be doing mine, which I think mine's easier, but we'll see in the end. I'll try to be fair. Before we get going today, guys, be sure to give the video a like and a share, and don't forget to subscribe to the channel if you haven't done so already. Now, let's get started. So to start off Gordon's recipe, we're going to be needing some eggs, obviously. I think we have enough. No, I have more than a dozen here. And as I was saying before, over here in Europe, you need to be a little careful because they don't wash the outside of the eggs. As you can tell, they still leave a little bit of, droppings and everything on them. This is just to leave the protective seal on the eggs because that way they can stay out longer of the fridge instead of having to be bleached and then put in the fridge to be refrigerated. First, we're going to pre-crack some of the eggs into the pan before. The reason why is Gordon says if you whisk the eggs before actually cooking them, it makes them grainy.
We never whisk our eggs before we cook them. It turns the whole thing grainy.
And now we're going to be putting a knob of butter in with this before we start cooking. Gordon also doesn't add any salt to this before because he doesn't want to make the eggs like watery. Almost forgot, we're also going to put some toast in the toaster. And since Gordon likes some condiments, I'm also going to put some mushrooms here in the pan to saute as they're cooking and some cherry tomatoes. Let those cook on the side while we're making the eggs. Right, now let's get the heat on. We're going to put this on 8 and we'll whisk in the pan as it starts cooking. The important thing with Gordon's is he wants to mix this as we're cooking. It's a good idea if you have a silicone spatula with this. And if you think that's too much butter, trust me, it's not, because his recipe calls for a good knob of butter. Now technically Gordon likes to take this off the heat every now and then because the residual heat's still cooking in the pan, especially if you have a thicker bottom pan, and it does. As you can tell, it's already starting to coagulate. When you're working with an induction, it makes things a little more complicated. It really depends on you if you want to make these a little drier or not. But with Gordon, we want to make them to the point of where they're nice and silky, like this. This is the perfect moment. Now, you want to turn it off the heat, and you want to add a little dollop of crème fraîche. And we just mix this in. Preferably off the heat. We're going to add a little bit of salt, just a little after the cooking process, not before, because Gordon doesn't like that. This is the French method of making it, and you can tell that there are no large clumps of egg. It's annoying when chives go bad so quickly. I bought these literally 3 days ago. If you see any yellow ones, you want to take those out, or if they're starting to turn yellow or wilty. And it is always a good idea to cut off the ends because they dry out first. And what I like to do is I like to cut them here in the center, stack them, because then I can cut them more at once, and then slice very thinly. All right, now to plate, I'm just going to take a little bit of toast with a little bit of extra butter on it. I'm gonna plate some cherry tomatoes, I lost one. Put some extra chives on top. Overall, it's a little more technical. It's still easy to make. They're eggs. I mean, they take only a few seconds to make, less than a minute. It's super easy, but you need to buy crème fraîche, you need to buy a few ingredients, and if you don't want butter, well, then you can substitute with oil. Personally, I like this method a lot because this is more of the traditional method. Now to do the taste test, just because we have to do the taste test. If you don't like the taste of chives, then I would suggest to leave them out. You can add parsley, you can add anything else you want. Also, if you don't want to taste like crème fraîche, then I would suggest adding a little less because it can also overpower the eggs because the flavor of the eggs are quite delicate. These are not the organic eggs with a lot of flavor. These, you can influence the flavor a lot, but overall, pretty good.
So, English scrambled eggs. We're gonna go onto a medium heat.
So we're going to do about 2 eggs per person. Jamie then puts a little bit of salt in with these first, and he whisks them up first. This is probably what most of us do growing up at home and everything. We add salt to the eggs first. Gordon's method, remember, is the opposite. He does it at the end of cooking. Now for Jamie's eggs and Jamie's pan. Also, when you're using induction, remember to make sure that the bottom of the pan is dry before you put it on here. Otherwise, it'll start spitting. Now, Jamie goes in with a good knob of butter before he adds the eggs in. And while that's melting, he starts mixing everything in. Now, Jamie's method, unlike Gordon's, he doesn't move it as often. Gordon moves it more like a risotto where you don't let it sit for even 1 second. And Jamie, he likes to let it sit every few seconds and then move the pan. The other difference between the two methods is that Gordon typically likes to take the pan off the heat and let the eggs continuously cook at a lower temperature so they coagulate or so they cook smoothly because he doesn't want lumps. Jamie likes lumps. Not super lumpy. No one likes super lumpy eggs. Well, maybe some people do, but me no. Now, Jamie's method, he doesn't add any dairy, no yogurt, no crème fraîche, nothing to this. He just cooks it to a certain point, takes it off the heat, and allows the residual heat to finish cooking the eggs. That's pretty much it for Jamie's method. When he made that video, he didn't add any condiments or anything else on it. And if you want to add chives, you can, some greenery. I add herbs to my eggs because I like them. I add chives or I add something else. You can add black pepper, anything you want. Jamie's style is simpler, and if you're lactose intolerant, is better because you don't add either yogurt, crème fraîche, or anything else that can cause you an issue. But personally speaking, I still prefer Gordon's method because Jamie's is a little on the simpler side, which is easier. There's nothing wrong with it. The only thing is, if I'm going to make this for somebody else to like show off, I'll probably make them a little nicer, make them a little fancy. To tell you the truth, they're actually quite tasty. If you have good eggs, good butter, good ingredients, it makes them flavorful. Just to show you the difference between the two before the eggs start to dry out, you can still tell that these are pretty creamy. They're also a little lighter in color because of the crème fraîche. And these are a little drier. These are also cooked a little bit more. Gordon's method is very French, while a little modern British. It's very elegant, very nice. Jamie's is more basic of what we do in the house, but it's still very good, all right? I'm not criticizing them. It is still very good and still an easy method to make. Mine, tell me what you think after you see this. So first, I'm gonna crack a few eggs in here. I'm gonna add a little bit of salt just so they're seasoned. I don't do it after. Just until the point that they're mixed. You don't need to add a lot of air. Once the pan comes up to temp, I'm gonna add a little bit of extra virgin olive oil, or olive oil if you have it, doesn't matter. Eggs don't cook at a high temperature, so it doesn't really matter if you're going to be using either. It's just that extra virgin has more flavor. As I said before, I don't like lumpy eggs, so if you notice that they're starting to cook a little too fast, just take it off the heat. Directly take it up, pick it up, and it'll keep cooking. And after about a minute of doing this repeatedly, you still get a nice smooth consistency. And once it gets to about this consistency, where there's still a little on the wet side, I take it off the heat, take a little bit of sour cream or crème fraîche, whatever I have in the house, gently mix this in. This is just to stop the cooking process. It also adds a little bit of creaminess to the eggs. Now I know a lot of you will probably say, "Ooh, those look super, super, super wet eggs, disgusting, blah, blah, blah." It's okay. If you want them cooked a little more, just cook them for a few more seconds and they'll be a little drier. I take them off a little before because I also have other things going on, and the residual heat does carry over and it continues to cook a little bit. Now I'm gonna take a tomato. I'll show you what we're gonna do with this in a second. I'm just gonna cut this in half. We're going to put the bread just like so, and instead of using butter, I'm gonna rub a little bit of tomato on the bread. This is a very Catalan thing to do. We're gonna take a little bit of extra virgin olive oil as well. Going to add a little bit of cheese because I like cheese with my eggs as well. So I'm gonna cut some brie. Personally, I eat cheese with my eggs in the morning. Just gonna put some slices of brie on here. And then what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna add some jamón serrano on the side here. This is a very, very popular thing that people do. I admit, I have made more of a Spanish version. Actually, making these two, I've just noticed myself that, I have actually changed quite a bit because all these are very Mediterranean ingredients. It's actually a Mediterranean type breakfast, so anyway, there you go. There's a new recipe for you. In any case, my version is a little different. If you don't like olive oil, you can substitute it with butter. That's not a problem. The ham adds a lot. It goes well with eggs, and a lot of dishes here in Spain, they use either jamón serrano or jamón ibérico. Jamón ibérico is the black hoof. Jamón serrano is the white hoof. Jamón ibérico is more expensive. they feed acorns to it and everything, and it gets more technical. But in any case, it's a very, very, very tasty and easy breakfast to make. So basically put, my version is in between Gordon's and Jamie's, but instead of using butter, I use olive oil. And I do sometimes use crème fraîche, not always, but it does help to make the eggs a little creamier at the end. So in any case, let's taste test. It tastes very Mediterranean. Me personally, I do prefer to add cheese to my eggs. It just makes them nice and creamy, and brie is pretty typical here. You can use camembert, you can use any good melter. Even if you get a nice manchego cheese, which obviously is a little difficult to get if you're not in Spain. Not as good of a melter, but it has a very nice sharp flavor. Also, if you have cheddar or anything, very nice. And that's it, guys. Let me know which one you prefer down below, which method. To be very honest with you, Gordon's method is very nice. It's very fancy, it's very nice. Butter goes very well with eggs. It gives it a nice rich flavor. Also, you have little tomatoes and mushrooms on the side. It's a very typical breakfast. Jamie's method is a little simpler, a little faster to make at home, and probably the method that the majority of people make because it's easy. Nothing wrong with that. You just don't want to cook the eggs into the point that they're sawdust, because otherwise, it's not nice having, you know, sawdust in your mouth. Now, my version is tastier with butter. Olive oil does affect the flavor. So if you don't like olive oil, not to worry, just add butter to it. This right here is probably a fortune, isn't it, right now? I know eggs are expensive. Here, they're still pretty cheap. In any case, thank you for watching. Be sure to hit that like button and subscribe to the channel so you don't miss out on any future content, as it really, really, really does matter to me, and I appreciate it greatly. And if you can pass this video on to other people and just keep replaying it, even better. It's time, take care. Be sure to check out this next video here, and I'll see you again very soon.